Going live. All right, so I'm going live here on Facebook and on Zoom. So I'm going live on my laptop and I'm going live on Facebook. And let me go ahead and have some explaining to do. Where'd you go? Resume. I have some explaining to do to my friends, family, followers, supporters. You know, being that I've been doing all I've been doing as the founder of the bigvirushoax.com for 2 years, as the guy that created righteousarmy.org and who's been heralding that we the people need to unite and organize, as the militia, which probably, I guess, because I turned the camera around on Facebook, so probably, I think on Zoom my shirt won't read properly because the camera's facing properly on, but I'm using, you know, this reverse the camera, so my shirt probably reading backwards on Facebook. Probably says I'm it's Second Amendment, I am militia, militiausa.org, right? Last night, well, today is Monday, September 26, 2022. And woo, I have a heavy duty video here to do all by myself for, again, my family, my friends, my followers, my supporters, the government, the FBI, the CIA, the world, especially for the United States of America, for the Republic, for Americans. If I seem a little out of it, it's because last night we had our National Militia meeting, number 30, which started at 6 p.m. and ended at 3:30 a.m. That's like unimaginable. I don't, it's early in the morning. I didn't get too much sleep, having some coffee to wake me up. I'm not usually a coffee drinker, but how did we, I'm even kind of beside myself. 9 hours. I started recording it at 6:15 p.m. and I turned off the recording, I think at 3:20 or 3:30. So literally 9 hours, I mean, a person's work day is 8 hours all day long working, plus they get an hour break. And our meeting went nonstop for 9 hours. How is that even possible? It's kind of, I'm kind of beside myself because you know how when you're talking about something that's interesting, the time flies. That's kind of what happened too. I can't even believe or understand how it was that we had a 9-hour national militia meeting. So, you know, I'm doing this video right now because I need to clarify some things. Let me start off by saying this. Near the end of the Zoom meeting, there was a guy that came on. He had this funny looking little character, almost looked like Bert. Reminded me of Bert from Sesame Street, but it also looked like a little funky character. But Glenn, watch the video if you ever do. It's a 9-hour video. At least watch, you know, maybe the first couple hours of it. But in the middle of the video, David Straight came on. I called him and he joined us on Zoom. So there were some interesting things that happened there too. But near the end of the meeting, Glenn, and I'm kind of paraphrasing it, but Glenn in Nevada came on, had a lot of, you know, he was just sitting back quiet for hours listening. And I invited him to speak, and he came on and started talking and had quite a few interesting things to say, great insights. But he told me, and I'm going to paraphrase it the best I can. He said, Mike, I love you, man. I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing. But you're going to end up in fucking federal prison, man. I mean, like that. It was like two dichotomy statements from the man in the meeting. Mike, man, I love you. I love what you're doing. But you're going to end up in fucking federal prison. And I said, what do you mean? I mean, no, I mean, everything we're doing is lawful, peaceful, open, transparent, smart. You know, we're utilizing law. He says, Mike, that doesn't matter of what you're doing is right or good. You keep doing what you're doing, talking about force and militia and organizing, and you grow and you get to a point where you're big enough, they're going to make an example out of you. That was his point. He said they're going to take advantage of that. They're going to use it as an example to make an example out of you. Now, I've been saying from the beginning, and it's true, I trust in the Creator, Lord God Almighty Divine with my life. That's just all there is to it. And I don't brag, but I do frequently declare that I am fearless. I reject fear. I don't believe in fear. I reject it. I'm not going to fear. Ultimately, I'm going to stand for my dignity and my rights. And part of what I told him is, so what do we do? Nothing? I mean, there's only two options, right? I just, tuck my tail between my legs like a dog and just, okay, oppressive, tyrannical, corrupt government. Whatever you say, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. I'll wear the face diaper. Okay, I'll go get the jab. When they come to my house to say you got to have, okay, I'll listen to you. I'll do what you say. No, right? So it's an interesting conundrum because Glenn, thank you. And I told him, I said, Glenn, you know what? He did crack my brain. He did create a rift where he penetrated my thoughts to the point of thinking. He did, and I even told him, I said, who knows, maybe you're my savior. Because he made me realize, particularly the way he said it, I love what you're doing. It's like, it's awesome. I love you. I love what you're doing. But you're going to end up in fucking federal prison because they're going to take advantage and make you an example. They're going to make an example out of it. There was something about that was potentially realistic. Theoretically, that could be true, which is part of the reason I'm doing this video now. If nothing else, this is my future proof, jury, now that you're watching this video, you know where I'm coming from, right? I'm being honest about everything. You could watch every single one of my videos. In fact, if I ever did get in that kind of a situation where they tried to make an, example out of me, I mean, I would, certainly require my defense team to require the jury to watch every single one of the videos I've ever done, which I'm confident that after they did, they'd all be jumping out of the jury box and on the, hot seat with me and saying, we agree with this guy. It's a fine line, right? Again, right? Where do you draw the line between doing nothing and taking a stand? But going back to try to, again, validate Glenn's point, right? And to make, to show how and why I agree with him or concur what he's saying is theoretically potentially true. Even though everything we're doing is lawful, peaceful, true and accurate and right, he made the point, he says, Mike, you're talking about a corrupt system that's been around for thousands of years, man. Yeah, they're corrupt. Yeah, they've been around for thousands of years. He basically said, why not just detach from it, right? I mean, claim your sovereignty. And again, I forgot what they called it, but he basically was saying that there's another approach, even kind of aside from the David Straight approach and the Anna von Reitz approach of national sovereignty or national, sovereignty, state citizen, that you can go to the Hague, and declare yourself as a sovereign nation. An individual can do that, right? But then you're without a nation. Eric Dingus, who's been with us quite a bit lately, made that point that then you're without a nation completely. You're just an island. You're not going to have the State Department to help you if you get in trouble in some other nation, right? You're on your own. So that's not really the way to go. Eric Dingus made a good point of that Glenn's thoughts about just becoming a sovereign nation under yourself. First of all, you need to be a financially independent person to do that. And second of all, you're on your own. You're an island, without the support of, any other nation, essentially. So probably not a good idea, right? What I'm ultimately trying to say here in this video that I'm doing solo is I called Dan, my right-hand man, my wingman, and Dan made really the profound point, a couple of profound points. He said, first of all, it's not about numbers. He said how God was upset with David because when David went to battle, David was worried about how many people he had. And it's not about numbers. It's not about quantity. It's about quality, right? Speak the truth. Speak what is true and just and right. And those that are seeking that truth, will come to you. It's never been about trying to create numbers per se. Again, right, 50-50. It's a two-way street there, because you do want to create a show of force. And when I say show of force, just meaning by numbers of people that are all, even if we said, okay, yeah, we're saying militia because theoretically, technically, we the people are the militia. Like I've said all along, we the people are the militia. And I've made the point in numerous videos, we're not talking militia like a bunch of good old white boys in the backwoods with guns and we're going to, storm the Capitol and commit acts of sedition or insurrection. We've always made it clear that's not what we're about at all. We're about, if I could say capitalizing, and I don't mean it in a monetary or financial sense, but we're about capitalizing on the concept or benefiting from the concept and reality that it's a banner we can all unite around. Because we the people are the militia, so let's create a new brand, a new flavor, a new understanding of the militia. That now here's the banner we can all rally around. We all believe in the Second Amendment. We believe in our right to assemble. We believe in our right to bear arms. So and we are the militia. The people constitute the militia, and the people are the ultimate power. So let's all organize around this banner. There's our banner. That's what we all agree on. But now my mind's going back to Glenn's point. He says, you keep pushing that and you keep using words like force and militia, they're going to twist it. That's what they do. They twist things. So they'll invent things. They'll create a false scenario just to make an example out of you. So when he said that, it rang, again, not as true. It rang as being potentially true or theoretically true. That if you're going after a corrupt system, and if I were to continue being this leader, which is another factor. I've always said I'm not a leader. I'm not trying to be some follow me guy to begin with. I've always just been trying to wake people up to the reality of, look, organize in your communities, organize as a voice, which is why I still believe there's validity to it and no reason to stop per se. But that's where Eric Dingus and I have absolutely agreed that ultimately everything is about your local community, right? It's about we the people having the power and the authority, but in our community. So if people will start uniting and organizing around those things that we all agree upon, that are moral, that are godly, that are traditional family values, that are in opposition to a liberal, progressive, transsexual, transgender, godless, self-destructive, immoral, communist, one world order agenda for all of humanity, those that are opposed to that, those that agree upon certain principles and morals and virtues, moral virtue, start organizing in their county, in their township, and they start coming together, which was my ultimate point anyway, for people to start doing that. And that then this is where it moves into the second level of, when you do that, creating common law courts in your community, right? It's not about going after the federal government. It's not about going after any government. It's about waking people up to the reality that in their communities, that's where it starts, at the grassroots level in your community. Those of us who are of like mind center to right, every American who voted for Donald J. Trump is what it ultimately amounts to. Every American who voted for Donald J. Trump, not MAGA, every American who voted for Donald J. Trump, which was the vast majority of Americans, they all find a way to unite and organize in their communities on principles, on godly principles, on God's law, right? On moral law, on common law, and changing their communities to be godly, to be moral, changing their communities to be better. And that's why my most recent blog that I sent out, right, was titled The Miami-Dade County Sheriff, right? I wrote it kind of as if it was actually written by a sheriff who's a sheriff, but that's because many people told me that I should be the sheriff of Miami-Dade County, and I would be if I could be. So I did on the blog put a disclaimer that this was written by, the National Militia Coordinator. And again, why am I the National Militia Coordinator? Because I'm just endeavoring to get people throughout the nation, nationally, to organize in their communities and have networks of communication where the counties are communicating throughout the states. The states have an order and a control based on, again, the militia being a peaceful, lawful, open, transparent, community organizing, positive thing for the community, right? Gun safety training, inviting the family and the children, talking about the dangers of guns and how to use them properly and safely, and meeting at the gun range for target practice to train in the use of weapons properly, and talking again at the gun range about, gun safety, having monthly meetings on the laws, on common law, on the 10 Commandments, on the Constitution, having annual barbecues where everybody's shown up with their Second Amendment, I Am Militia t-shirt, just to make the point that they believe in the Second Amendment, and they believe in gun safety, and they believe in their right to assemble, and they believe in their right to bear arms. See, all that's good and proper and right. I'm not some leader. I'm not follow me. I'm rounding up the militia boys. Let's go get them. I've done my best to make it clear from the beginning. That's not what I'm about. I'm about endeavoring to organize people, get people to organize themselves in their communities. That's why I say a point man, a point woman. That would be somebody that in their community, they say, wow, yeah, forget about the government, what if China and Russia ever invade our borders, man? And that's what the militia is here for, right? To defend our nation, right? We're here to defend ourselves. So there ain't no threat against the government there. That's just, hey, having a militia headquarters to do the gun safety, do the range practice and gun safety, do the talk about laws, having the annual barbecue, community services, maybe even getting together once a year to go pick up trash on the beaches and in the parks and in the street, doing good things under the banner of militia, because after all, we the people are the militia. And it ultimately, it's representative of, this banner is representative of, and I'm showing it on Facebook. So, let me just put my camera down here, right on for Zoom, just, pulling my screen down so I could show it on Zoom too, because obviously on Facebook we can see it good, but this banner, right? This is what we're organizing around, is our constitutional right to carry, our constitutional right to bear arms, our constitutional right to assemble. And we're organizing under this banner because it applies to every American. That's the point. That's the banner we're all uniting under and upon, not because we're, trying to build an army of physical, military might and force to go up against any government, but because in the ultimate sense, when it would come to that aspect of military or fighting or battle or bearing arms for protection, it could ultimately come down to, again, what if our nation is invaded by China and Russia, and our own U.S. military is overwhelmed. We're here to help, right? We're here to back up and protect our nation. But again, it's to protect and preserve the welfare of our republic. So that welfare also, it can be argued, factors into the moral virtue, right? The traditional family values, all the things that I addressed in my blog that says the Miami-Dade County Sheriff, right? Where I wrote what I would do if I was a sheriff, right? I would do everything I could to find out what kind of laws were on the books concerning public decency and morality on billboards and on public broadcasts, and in places of public accommodation, which is public, in the public domain, in the public sector, right? And the public square, right? It's not taking anybody's rights away from them. It's not violating the First Amendment of the Constitution, because people still have their rights in the privacy of their own home or in private establishments where they can do whatever the hell they want. But in the public sector, the public square, the public domain, for the sake and benefit of our young, developing, malleable, impressionable, vulnerable, easily influenced and vulnerable children and youth who can be driving down the road and seeing all the perversion that the corrupt corporations are starting to push into the public domain, so they can sell any product they want, and they can push their transsexual, transgender, homosexual, trans liberal, transhuman, everything, self-destructive, people with graffiti all over their bodies and eyes and ears, earrings, and cutting their lips, holes in their lips, and piercings all over, cutting, and anti-Bible, anti-God, self-destructive behavior, chugging on Jack Daniels, and like, that's cool. Look 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds and 7s and 8s and 9s and 10s as you're driving down the street with your parents. Look at that cool billboard with that guy with graffiti all over his body, holding a bottle of Jack and a beautiful woman in his arms. Like, that's what life's about, right? No. See, that's my battle, is against the corporations, not the government, ultimately. The problem is the corporations have hijacked and taken over the government. See, boom. So again, my question could go back to Glenn, right? What do you do about that? What do we say if my fight is not against the government, it's against corporations, but those corporations have infiltrated and hijacked the government, so they're acting as a government when they're not a government? Am I committing acts of treason against a corporation? I'm not committing acts of insurrection against the government. I wouldn't do that. What does it mean when you go up against a corporation? Is that insurrection? Is that treason? You see what I mean? There's some fine points here. Anyway, Dan made the ultimate point. He said, Mike, man, it's ultimately about quality. Maybe, because I told him, I said, maybe I do need to tone it down or refine it. First of all, I don't want to do 9-hour meetings anymore. Okay. It was wow. I mean, it was recorded. So, I captured and documented a lot of information in those 9 hours. If anything, you listen to an hour or 2 hours a day for a few days, you can hear the whole thing or skip through it. And, you could see the kind of controversy when I had David Straight on, who was nice enough and good enough to come on the phone with me when I asked him to. But Eric Dinges, who I totally respect and appreciate, by his own admission, was overpowering and speaking over David, making accusations against him and not allowing him to defend himself. So ultimately, David just bailed, like most people would have done, And salutes to Brian in New Mexico. He knows I love him, but Brian didn't like the fact that David bailed. But I made an example out of our buddy Brian too, because he was saying, oh man, you got to stick it out. And I pointed out how, when he thought I lowered his hand when I didn't, right? He was going to bail. People will bail when it's human nature, man. It's human nature. People have feelings, they have emotions. It's understandable for Eric to be uptight and upset because he thinks and understands David was calling him an FBI agent when he's not. And maybe he is, but I don't think he is, right? And it's understandable for David as well to be concerned if he hears that Eric Dinges is an FBI agent who's trying to infiltrate his organization, right? So it's like, come on, guys, let's communicate here and just talk it out. David was doing his best, to explain where he's coming from. But again, Eric admitted he overshadowed and overpowered David. And it kind of, David was like, I don't have time for this. I even called him after he answered the phone again. He says, I don't got time for that shit. I ain't gonna, so I appreciate, I appreciate both of them. I appreciate David. I appreciate Eric. I just told Eric last night, even after David left, Eric, please find a way to be, you and David need to be like this. And that message is for David too. David and Eric, David, find out for sure if Eric is an FBI agent or not. Because if he's not, he's a very intelligent man who knows a lot about the law. Work with him. Eric, have conversations. And David invited him into his home, into his office. Just come on over. I'll show you all the boxes I have of the child trafficking and everything I've ever said. It's right here in my office. You can I mean, he welcome, open arms, come into my office and see whatever you want to see. So, I mean, that kind of does away with any ill claims against David right there. He's opening his office for anybody to come in and ask whatever questions they want, investigate them all you want. So a lot of this was hearsay. We were talking about that hearsay. He says, she says, you know, and rumors fly, and then it creates this kind of bullshit. When in reality, we all need to be working together. But that was an interesting part of the 9 hours was when David Straight came on and we were discussing some things. And again, it was very interesting near the end, the latter part with Glenn, who made valid points, right? He's like, Mike, I love you, man. I love what you're doing, but you can't have a fucking federal prison. So he did jar my thinking to that. Again, I don't want to say possibility, that theoretical possibility. And that's again why I'm doing this video again, to make the point. No, I'm not about trying to change a government. I'm not about trying to, you know, wage war against a government. But where do you draw the line between, you know, a government and a corporation when the government is a corporation? That's a big question. Maybe we'll bring that up in the next meeting. Okay, if you go up against a government with force, it's insurrection, it's treason. But what if you go up against a corporation with not even armed force, but with lawful force to try to hold them accountable? Try to hold them accountable. For that matter, we can go up against the government to hold them accountable with law as well. But I think again, Glenn was with love trying to make the point that yeah, keep going after them with law and trying to hold them accountable while simultaneously talking about force and militia and see where it gets you, right? So he makes a good point there. You know, Glenn, thank you. You know, Glenn did get me thinking last night that if nothing else, I just need to have more disclaimers and be much more clear, always, openly, constantly, like I'm doing in this video, about what we're about, which I think I pretty much spelled it out in this video already. We're just about getting the people, particularly and especially on your local level, those of us who are like-minded, opposed to the New World Order, pro-God, pro-traditional families, pro-Second Amendment, pro-right to assemble, pro-original Constitution, anti, you know, corporation infiltrating and hijacking and taking over our government or any government to manipulate and control us, using government as their weapon against us, which the King of England came right out and said that in his video, if anybody saw it. He says, and I'm paraphrasing him, he said, we corporations who run the world must establish and develop an army, military force to protect our worldwide endeavors. That's what he said. So you got corporations now not only trying to act as governments, but trying to raise militaries to manipulate and control the people. Come on, people. Glenn, how do we deal with that? Other than your suggestion of just breaking free. And like he said, they'll respect that if you can just represent yourself and say, hey, corporation, I just don't want nothing to do with you anymore. Thank you very much for everything you've given me so far and done for me. I appreciate you, but I don't want nothing to do. And I'm just going to go live in my van and sleep in my van and, you know, live in the woods. You know, so long as you are partaking of what they're providing, light bills and gas and fuel and the grocery stores that sell all their poisonous junk foods, and you're partaking in that, they're going to claim their dominion and control over you because you're partaking of what they're providing. So Dan, my right-hand man, my wingman Dan, also says it best when he says it's about a parallel community. You know, I mean, that's pretty much what the Republic for the United States of America, Governor James and you know, Governor President Geiger as well, have all pretty much indicated it's about, you know, reestablishing the constitutional republic, you know, de jure government, which is kind of representative of the government of that, you know, parallel society. You know, probably some validity to that. But I think the ultimate point that's been made, and Eric didn't just help me to get to this recognition, is that we need to, those of us who are like-minded on all the issues we're like-minded on, which I've addressed many times, need to start at the grassroots community, county community level to change our communities for the way we envision our communities being, which again, I think the Miami-Dade County Sheriff blog I wrote represents what I would do what I would pursue. So maybe that's a model for everybody. So I'll leave it at that. I just wanted to put this video out for the record after doing a 9 hours national militia meeting last night, Sunday evening, which for the record as well, I think I'm going to be endeavoring to make some changes. I don't know how yet on how we're doing the meetings. Maybe we'll have one night that's just an open free for all where anybody could say whatever they want. I'll have another meeting that's a closed meeting just for the point men and women, around the country that are looking to organize, that need direction and answers. And then maybe the other meeting, will be just a close knit, top tier strategy, meetings for those of us that are trying to, orchestrate the lawful, peaceful, proper ways that we can be moving forward and encouraging the point men and women to go down, what direction to go down. So kind of those three classifications of meetings. I'll let everybody know how we're going to do that soon. So thank everybody. I got an email and a text from 2 more people indicating they appreciate what we're doing and they want to, join our efforts, which again, it's pretty clear. I think I explained in this video what our efforts are about. Ultimately, everybody who voted for Donald J. Trump, we need to look to ourselves and our communities, not to Donald J. Trump. And again, this is simply a banner that we can all unite upon, in the sense that we, the people, are the militia, and we should be organized just to defend our nation in case some foreign enemy invades and our military needs our help. And we can do great things under that banner, with gun safety training and target range training, with more gun safety training for families and children, having an annual barbecue. It's a banner for us all to unite around. That's the point of it. So again, salutes to all. God bless, and see you next time. See here.